like then compared to what it's been since then?
It's hard because we've had a couple days off, Kurt, and he's done a great job getting with Zach and with Liam of kind of, even getting some foundational understanding of the things that we can do off of what he did with, kind of your early base install. A lot of the stuff are things that he is familiar with. It's just he might have called it something different. Maybe there's a couple little details that are different, but you just have a little bit more time. I still think you have to be cognizant of the amount of information that a quarterback's responsible for. You want to give it to him in bite-sized increments. You want to be mindful of, all right, how do we get a good, tight game plan together that is reflective of what the 10 guys around him are comfortable with, what he's comfortable with, and then ultimately that gives you some answers that you feel good about against a tough defense.
Sean, when you're teaching that, and you're not teaching it from scratch, obviously, what's the first place you start in terms of adapting the foundation of the language?
Yeah, I mean, when you typically go through, your just general information and things like that, you're not as worried about every single formation we can activate. Obviously, the cadence, the huddle procedure, that's always where you start. And there's been very similar mechanics and things that we do that he's been familiar with, where a lot of teams use, some similar sequencing in that regard. So that's where you started last week. And then it's really just being able to build off of some of the base install, whether it's relative to the run game, some of the things that you can do, with the things that you would want to activate in the normal downs. But it's really still in alignment with, all right, let's put a game plan together and let's make sure that instead of saying, hey, you're responsible for all the different possibilities, it's kind of our responsibility to keep it tight. But, I mean, his capacity is really impressive. And, having a little bit more time and the way that he works at it, it's been impressive, and a lot of credit goes to him.
Not implying that he needs this, but is there a device, when you're teaching this in general, it's so much information to process and then apply. Is there a device you use as a teacher to get that sort of at an expedited pace?
Yeah, I think what you have to be really intentional about, and I remember, Brad Stevens and I have talked about this before, is just give them just enough to try to go play great. You can sometimes, immerse these guys in information, and not all of it is necessary, to go play at a really high level. And so you want to be selective with the information that you're given. And then I think, a real credit to him in terms of, it's one thing for the time that he's spending, whether it be with Zach, Liam, myself, or the other coaches and players. It's another thing to then take time on your own, and you see his notes, you see the way that he's really building on some of the initial understanding of those things, and that's what's been impressive. But I think it's more along the lines of, all right, what are the most important things that we need to deliver to be able to go understand it, the intent, and then be able to execute, the play, the intent, the mechanics, and then if there's any potential problems that you need to solve, what are those given the weekly rhythm and, the team that we're playing. If you got an answer for that, I'd love it. We're gonna go to an ice hockey rink, and no, it's a different deal. Nothing that you can really prepare for. It wasn't going to be as cold as what it's as what it's expected to be when we played there in the divisional round a couple years ago. So stay warm, and then when you're out there, hopefully the adrenaline kicks in.
Sean, another Baker question. Has it been a point where he wants to do too much, too soon, too fast, and you have to tell him, ease up, or has it been pretty steady pace?
I think he's been really steady, and I think it's, part of it is just, okay, what is the information that we want to try to be able to master today, and then how do we really build on it? You don't want to just throw the whole playbook, because that's not applicable. You only have a certain amount of plays that you're going to be able to get off in a given week, and I think it's just continuing to build incrementally, but really, you're not too limited just based on his capacity and his understanding, and like he's kind of talked to you guys about, just the big picture understanding with being exposed to a handful of different verbiages, vernaculars as it relates to offensive systems, but there's still concept carryover, and he's able to kind of say, all right, I know this is what we call it, and it's kind of like learning a different language, but it's still the same, rhythm and routine in regards to what he's being asked to do.
Along the lines of the concept carryover, how much of a head start did it give him having that familiarity with the protection scheme like you and him have worked on?
I think that's big, and I think he'd be better equipped to answer that, but there are a lot of similarities just based on, my history with some similar coaches that he's worked with, and that's a huge part of it, and that's a big part of what, you and the center are responsible for as a quarterback, and I think that made it a little bit more seamless, but I don't think by any stretch does it minimize how impressive it is what he's done.
How much, if at all, did you
your knowledge, if you had it, of Cleveland, for example, the Browns system, were you able to tell him, hey, this is how we do it, this is how you did it with the Browns?
Sure.
Similar.
It was helpful, and because Gary, I mean, I'm a fan of this game. And so, you're always studying the other 31 teams in this league. There's a lot of similarities and there's some differences, obviously, but what Cleveland's done, even just watching, especially since, Kevin ended up becoming the head coach, there was, a lot of consistencies in terms of the core foundational philosophies of how you want to operate offensively. And so, being familiar with that was helpful. Having worked with Coach Callahan and some of the things that Stu was asking about, that is very helpful, but it still doesn't, take away. I think it accelerates the process, but, to be able to do what he did is really impressive, and we want to just keep being able to build on it. But it was helpful, I think.
And given your memory, your ability to recall things you've seen, whether it's related to the Rams or someone else, were you able to inject any of that with him specific to, hey, we did it like you did it in that game on that play?
Yeah, and really I wouldn't say based on any sort of memory, but I can even remember when we got Odell last year, a lot of the plays that you're saying, all right, what are the best ways to be able to utilize him? You're watching and you're saying, man, this is pretty impressive from Odell, but this is also pretty impressive what Baker was doing. And so, Jake Peets and a lot of our coaches do a great job of being able to gather inventory and turn it around in a quick amount of time so you can kind of see some of those types of things. And it's not necessarily the memory as much as it is, collective effort, from the staff to be able to say, all right, what are some of the things that maybe you've had success with that fits within the framework of our offense? And some of that carryover was helpful. But even last year, when you do a similar, you're kind of onboarding Odell in a similar time frame, it was, you're seeing a lot of the stuff that he did really well when those two were connected in Cleveland.
Sean, you talked about making sure you're cutting out, you're presenting necessary
Yeah.
information. Do you have a specific example of unnecessary information that you want to remove?
I think the players would probably be able to tell you that. But, yeah, I mean, sometimes I can have too many coffees and you're like, why the hell did I say that? They don't need to know all that kind of stuff. But I think it's really just making sure that it is really, you're very direct to the point and clear so that the clarity exists. And, sometimes there's so many different nuances that are taking place, when you got 22 moving parts and guys want to know, but you say, all right, well, it is important, and a lot of these guys that have great grasp, just like, Matthew, the quarterbacks, and what I would imagine just, being around Baker in a short amount of time, they want to know everything, but it's not important to know, all right, what are the run game combination calls? How are we targeting certain things in the run right now to be able to play at a high level? Are those things that over time you want to be able to have a mastery of so that you can be a true extension of the coaches on the field? Absolutely. But which phases of the offense are absolutely vital for you to be able to say, here's the play, here's the intent, these are my mechanics, and then if I have to solve any problems within the framework of that, whether that be protection driven or in some of the run game stuff, if we don't want to activate these runs versus these looks, can I solve those? And that's where you really say, if you're checking the boxes on all those things. And then a lot of the other information is, just bonus stuff that a lot of those greats end up wanting to know, but it's not necessarily pertinent to the given circumstances right now.
Sean, it was only one game, but to see it come together so fast after the 12 prior games of trying to get the offense going and just couldn't get that going, is that more rewarding after everything overcomes the whole year?
I think what it was is what I was so happy is for the way the guys have worked, and even there's so many things that take part throughout the course of a game where it's the greatest team sport that there is, and for you to be able to get the result that you're hunting up, it takes a lot, some of which is out of your control. And I was really proud of the way the team competed against Seattle on Sunday. And we came up just a little bit short. But then when you look at the sequence of events that occurred, whether it be, a lot of the plays that the guys made, whether it be offense, defense, or special teams, but particularly from that 4-minute mark on when Cam makes a great catch on the 4th and 1, then they end up punching it in. Defense gets to stop, but it doesn't happen without extra point from Matt Gay. End up being able to, pin them, where they're starting on the 25-yard line. You go 3 and out, and then we're on the 2-yard line, and a lot of the plays that led up to that. So it was rewarding because the guys have worked the right way. And I've been so impressed, and I've mentioned that to you guys. And to see them get the benefits of that hard work and be able to enjoy themselves, like I mentioned to you guys on Thursday night, it's really fun. And that's why, you do it, is to be able to enjoy those moments. That's one of the main reasons, is the enjoyable experiences after the work is there. And I think based on the amount of things that we've gone through as a team this year, it was especially rewarding because of the character that I think you're seeing, from so many of those men in that locker room. And I'm just grateful to be a part of it. And we're all learning a lot about each other in the midst of this. Yeah, it was awesome, Greg. I mean, you look at it, confidence is a powerful thing. And when it's earned confidence and when you're able to make those plays and it can be compounding, you see guys do some special things. And, I mean, what a catch down the right sideline that Ben makes. That's as big a play on that drive, and you can just see the energy that it creates on the sideline. I think you're seeing a great maturation from Tutu Atwell. Van Jefferson really working himself back into being the player that we know that he is, coming off of that knee injury. I've seen really good things from Brandon Powell. So if you say, all right, through a positive lens, you'd love to be able to have those guys with you. But it is developing depth. It's getting guys opportunities, and you're seeing that growth take place right in front of your eyes. And to be able to do it in these types of games that count, real circumstances, is powerful. And there's nothing that you can simulate or create in practice type of settings that can be as powerful as these things those guys are doing. And it's awesome to be able to see, because when you see the work pay off, and then you're able to make some of those plays, and now I'm capable of being able to do that. It's confidence is a really powerful thing in sports, and I think it was awesome to see those guys. Really happy for that group, and real credit to Eric Yarber.
Sean, the last 2 years obviously could not be any different.
Really?
Maybe they could.
Yeah.
So different, but a consistent theme seems to have been that you guys, if there's a catalyst to drop into your system, you guys will do it.
Mm-hmm.
What is it about this group that is comfortable operating in what for other places might feel like a sudden change?
Well, I think for us, I mean, it was kind of a good, timing and necessity. I mean, you really look at it. You got, your starter on IR, and then, John has done a great job. And I think it's a real credit to John to even give himself a chance to be available, for that game the other night. But he's really pushing through with a neck that's limiting his ability to be able to throw the ball the way that he's capable of. And then you've got Bryce, who's done a lot of really good things. But you're saying, oh, man, we're going to have to add somebody to that quarterback room, in general. And, oh, by the way, a guy that, we've, had good feelings about, just so happens to come available via the waiver wire. And so we were going to have to add to that position already. And it was just, kind of by necessity. Oh, he's there. And then based on how quickly he was able to absorb that information, and then what you saw in the one practice that we had, you're saying, hey, what the hell, and I think that was kind of it. It wasn't really anything other than, the timing, the circumstances, and still, we know that these are tough situations that we're dealing with. But, man, the way guys are working, you want to do whatever you can to try to go compete to the best of your ability. And if there's a way of onboarding somebody of his caliber that comes available, that's something that we'll do, and that's what we did. Okay? I thought I loved the response. I thought they played excellent against a Raiders offense that has a bunch of different weapons. I think Josh does a great job. They were running the football at a high clip. They're explosive. I thought we did a great job situationally. I thought we played good in the red area. I thought we played well against Seattle, but I thought the things that we could even do at a higher clip, guys improved on that. You're minimizing. They had a couple big plays, but that's two great players being able to go at it. But I just thought the overall, just the way that we were contesting things, the way we played tighter, I thought a lot of young guys on the defensive line did a great job of really setting the line of scrimmage. Whether you're looking at Bobby Brown, Ernest Brown ends up getting an opportunity to play for the first time. I thought Greg Gaines was outstanding. Michael Hoyt continues to learn and make a lot of different plays. You look at that last play of the game, he does a great job of forcing that throw for Carr to come out that ends up leading to the Taylor Rapp pick. So a lot of positives, and then Bobby Wagner has really led the way. I think he's been a man on a mission and continue to come away impressed with what he does day in and day out. wouldn't say that. I think there's been some bright spots, the way that I think there's been a lot of good things. And, football is a team sport, and we've got to be able to play well in all three phases. And I think sometimes things get exclamated or heightened just based on whether you end up winning or losing. But there's been some good things. But I thought last week was a great reflection of playing good team defense on all three levels, having an understanding of exactly what we were trying to get done, contesting things against what, is a really good offense. And it's going to be a great challenge this week against the Packers. Okay? Thanks, guys.
Hello, everybody. Ooh, packed room. Sheesh. No sleeves, man. No sleeves. I have like a little warm shirt on, though. A little heater thing, but outside of that, no sleeves.
How do you help your teammates prepare if they haven't played in cold weather before Green Bay game
I think a lot of it is just mental. It's cold out there, hot out there. It really doesn't matter. It's mental. Once you get past the it being cold out there, it should be straight. You know what I mean? I think my mindset is the faster you make the play, the faster you get to the heaters. So if you cold, then make a play so we can get to the heaters.
You're not the guy out there going shirtless in pregame.
I am not. I'm not that dumb. You know what I'm saying? There's limits. You can't push it.
So when you were coming out of high school going to Utah State, was it a significant adjustment then, or did you have very similar, same philosophy?
I was really young, so it's you don't really care. The stuff that we had back then was nothing compared to what we have now. I think we had plastic bags on our feet to stop the water from getting into your shoes. They got a lot better stuff than the plastic bags now. So I think I'm in a better position now than the Utah State days.
Bobby, over the years, what's been your impression of Aaron Rodgers, the things he does well, and maybe things that the casual eye doesn't always notice about what he does well?
I would say that the biggest thing is you have to believe that everybody's open because he sees them. He's one of those guys that he has a great feel of, the routes where they're supposed to be, things of that nature. And so, most quarterbacks, you can kind of follow their eyes. He'll take you to the ball, but he'll look to his left and then throw a pinpoint pass to the right. And most quarterbacks can't do that. You have to be conscious of when he extend plays. He know how to use the cadence to his advantage. There's so many things that he does well. He has complete command of the offense, so he can come up and has the authority to change the whole play. It could be two different runs, but he can just turn it to a pass. Sometimes he's in his stance, see the defender playing off and just gets out of his stance and then throws it to a receiver. I don't know. Sometimes I don't think everybody knows that that's going on. So, he's a very talented player, and it's always fun going against him.
As a linebacker, what do you like about, that gamesmanship of line of scrimmage and sort of the challenge that presents?
It's like chess. They're watching you just like you're watching them, and so if you give something away, he'll change it to the play that puts you in a tough position. And so, whenever you play a quarterback like him, it's just fun to play against because you gotta. It's really like chess. You're trying to figure out what he sees, what he checks to, get a feel for what their game plan is for this particular game, and it's fun. I think he's played great. I think every game he's gotten better. He had an opportunity early on in the season where he could have made a pick in the red zone, and I think it ended up in Nick's hands. And to see him make that play, last week was pretty cool. And so, he brings a lot of energy, a person that people feed off of, and it's just been cool to see. I think we just been coming out with a lot of energy, trying to do a better job of stopping the run and limiting their passing games and making tackles. And, I think the last few games, too, we've been really good in the red zone. And so in big moments, whether it's third down, red zone, things of that nature, I feel like we've, limited the points that's on the board. And we can still create more turnovers and grow. But, obviously when you create turnovers, it helps the offense. It's all part of the game. I think you have to go through those struggles to be a great player. When you go through those struggles, you learn from them and you make the corrections and then you start playing them better. Sometimes there's things you just haven't seen. And so you're playing things that you haven't seen consistently. And so I think that's when you realize you're a great player. It's not the mistakes. It's do you learn from those mistakes and can you correct those mistakes? Because the great players, they don't let things beat them more than once.
You mentioned the chess match with Aaron, and you hear people, especially inside linebackers, talk about in the past. He set certain things up, and then does it, a couple plays later, and you've sort of hinted at in the past that you do a setup game sometimes too. And I'm kind of wondering what's the game within the game in that regard. How do you guys stay within your game essentially, but continue to run those counters against each other?
I think the biggest thing is just you have to, when you watch film this week, you watch it in a way where they're going to attack any weakness or any mistake that you made last week. They're going to try to incorporate it into their game, whether they just line up in the play that you got beat on or they kind of window dress their emotion into it. So, he's smart enough, and that staff is smart enough to attack, our defense in the run game and in the pass game in, areas that we needed to improve on. So, we just need to make sure we make those improvements and be ready for them.
Is there any play that stands out in your mind involving you and Rodgers, either that went his way or that went your way, that comes to mind when you think of that matchup?
Not necessarily. There's been a couple plays where they run like a pass concept, and I knew he was going to throw it, and like he almost threw it into the ground because I read it pretty good. But it's always just fun playing against them.
And is there ever any acknowledgement between veterans like you, either vocally or just eye contact, like, yeah, I knew you read that and that's why I dumped it?
Sometimes. We all talk during the game, so. There's some plays he makes and it's great plays, or he just throws it up and it's just a spectacular play, and you just got to applaud it and move on. And I'm pretty sure it's probably the same way too.
All set?
Good. Appreciate it.